I feel really honored to be able to come and just share with you what I've been through and what it is that made the passion so burn so deeply within me for marriages. Thank you. But it really is good to be here this morning. My voice is shot because we had an event last night, and so I'll do my best to not sound like that. But yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Brian and I really do love creating things for couples with the webinars that we do, which is how we met Vicki and also Lorna and through TVMI and all of that. And the webinars they can be turned into seminars, in-person events as well, which is really fun. And a big part, what I've discovered, I didn't know that I enjoyed being a writer. You're a writer. And I will read a verse and I'm like, wow, I can deep dive into that verse and pick it apart. I call Heatherizing it, is what I call it. And then I'll write some article about it. And then, well, we should do a podcast on that. So then we do that too. So a lot of things we repackage things, but I've discovered that I love the writing piece of this. And so Brian does some, and we call it Brian's Brain. And then mine is Heather's Heart. So just another thing that's on our website that you can find. They're just some articles, inspirational articles and things like that for anybody. But yeah, so we've been doing this for a number of years, and we love it. We love talking marriage and just helping people move and grow. And one of the things that we notice is that people have a hard time moving forward when they're carrying a bunch of junk and baggage. And then, yep, y'all know what I'm talking about, especially if you've gone through a divorce. So that junk that is there, yeah. So when I talk to you today about moving forward, I really can't do that without telling you the history of what brought me to where I am today. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to dive into that, and then I'm going to have a few little sidebars that I'm calling Heather's Heart. But in 1993, I was that little tiny baby age of 21 years old. I got married. And I lived in Texas, away from my family. They all lived in Florida. And it seemed like our marriage was normal, and it was good. And then 1997 rolls around, so this is 4 years later, if you're doing all the math. 4 years later, I came home from work, and he had moved out. Surprise to me. No warning, nothing. And he took a bunch of stuff with him. He left me a note just so that he's moved out and you're on your own, basically. And it was a complete shock. And people have asked me, did you see the signs? And I'm like, not really. I didn't know what signs looked like. I thought we were good. It was so out of the blue. And I was very confused. I felt rejected, of course, by him. We would occasionally chat. I called him immediately, what's going on? And then, I don't know. So we would have conversations. And sometimes those conversations would lead me to think that we were not over. During this time, I did go to church. I was very involved in my church. I was raised in the church. My dad was a minister of music in the church. So I came out of the womb singing and believing in God and all of that. That you fight for marriages. Being raised in the church, that's what I think what it was like for me. So I knew that I needed to pray. And I did. God, please change my husband. God, please change my husband. Fix our marriage. I know you love me, and I know you can do anything. Fix him, and fix our marriage. You didn't hear me say fix me. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't, to my knowledge, do anything wrong. So what did I need to be fixed? I don't know. Today I still question that a little bit. What could I have done differently? But sometimes we don't get those questions answered. So I was praying during that time. What I was not doing is I was not talking to anyone. I was not sharing what I was feeling inside. It was the devil over here, the angel over here, just confusing so many thoughts because I'm holding it all inside. And that's not good to do. But 3 months later, he did come back. And he said, maybe not permanent. I don't know. Let's see if we can work it out. He never explained himself. He denied anything that I questioned him about. I was just happy that he was back because I was like, okay, this is right. This is good. We're going to be on the right track. Can God do that? Yes, he can. I still believe that. But we're born sinners, right? And we have free will, right? And you cannot control the other person. But I was like, okay, this is good. But still, because he was not sharing anything with me, I was still very confused and hurt. But during that time, he would come and go as he wished. I had to work late tonight. Come home at 9 o'clock, stuff like that. There was a lot of things like that happening. Gone for the weekend because he claimed he had to go help out at another property, things like that. And I'm supposed to believe him because I'm his wife and he's supposed to be the spiritual head of the household. All of these things in my head, like I don't have any proof of anything, but did I suspect we had someone on the side? Of course, of course. So that was happening, never admitting anything, lying a lot. I was very ashamed because, and like I said, I didn't tell my family anything because nobody in my family was divorced. Black sheep of the family right here, right? And I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't talk to anyone, not to my friends, not to my parents. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust anyone not to share my story. Like in that mode of, I need you to pray for my friend Heather. Let me tell you what's going on. That's a gossip session. Honestly, if you confide in someone, they need to keep their mouth shut and pray for you, right? And so that's like my little sidebar, Heather's heart right here. If you're going through anything, it might be a marriage thing, it might be a work thing, it might be a friend thing. It doesn't matter. If you're going through something that has you so torn up, you got to find somebody that you can confide in that's going to be a listening ear and help you with that clarity. Because like I said, I was confused. I was really confused about so many things. So then in 1999, 6 years later, 2 years of things being horrific, he said, I think we need to move to Florida to live with your family. And I was like, oh, are you going to just drop me off so that you can leave and then go do whatever? And he said, no, this is going to be a really good way for us to start over. What did I have to lose? I'd at least be with my family, but I did not believe that he was going to stick around. But he proved me wrong. And yeah, so we moved there. We bought a house together. We joined a church. I got involved on the worship team and in the choir, did all those things. And he was still up to his same tricks of work trips and staying late past his 8 to 5 job and things like that. The same things were still happening. So was there any change? No, there wasn't. It was all the same, except that he had a lot more work trips and stuff like that. And what I found out, he was actually going back to Texas and back and forth thing and bringing her to Florida where we lived. And this is all stuff that I found out way after the fact. So a lot of things. But I was very tired of all of his lies and manipulation. And eventually I gave up. I became very angry at God. If he loved me, he would fix this. He doesn't love me. That's what I felt. He has his favorites. He's fixed them and their problems. I'm not his favorite, clearly. He's proving that to me right now. And so I didn't trust God to do anything, and I stopped praying. I stopped listening to my worship music. I stopped listening to what the pastors were preaching. But what I didn't stop doing is I never stopped playing church because I was raised in the church. And my parents lived in the same town. And if they knew that I was not going to church anymore, well, why not, Heather? What's going on? What are your problems? And I didn't want to tell them. Nobody knew. This is still all in my head, right? Of trying to sort it all out in my head. So to me, everything was just meaningless. And so I could stand on that stage and hold that microphone and I could sing on the worship team about God and his love and his mercy and all these things, but I didn't believe it. It was a show, and it really was. But I held on to that, or just kept going, I guess. Now, what I said is I stayed in church because I felt like I needed to be that person for my family so they would know what was inside. I truly believe that the Holy Spirit kept me there. I believe he kept me there because that is where I did finally obviously turn back to him, even though I had such a rebellious spirit towards God. I kept going. I stayed. So the worship leader presented to us one night. He said, hey, we've got a worship conference coming up. If you're on the worship team or if you're in the choir, I want you to go. This is going to be a great event. I was like, I'm not going to go. And my husband said, I think we should go. Okay. I don't really want to. Why do you want to go? And I think it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good. Think of it as like a weekend getaway, right? And I can't say that we went. I went. He had a work trip. But while I was there, we would go to the classes and stuff like that. And then at night there would be preaching and worship music and stuff like that. So we would go and I would listen in one ear and out the other. And then at the end of one of the sermons, the pastor that was preaching, he said, if you are a worship leader and you are ready to throw in the towel and quit, I want you to come down to the altar. We want to pray for you. And I was like, That's cute. Of course he's going to say that. It's a worship conference and somebody here wants to quit. And I felt that little tug of God's talking to me. But I'm like, I'm not the worship leader at this church. He is. And I think he's good. He'll go if he needs to. And then after a few minutes, he says, okay, you might not be the worship leader. You might not be the worship leader. But maybe you feel like you're ready to throw in the towel over something. I was like, oh, that's cute, God. Of course he's going to say that. He didn't get enough people at the altar. He needs more people. It makes him look good. This is what's going on in my head. And I was like, no. And all the while feeling like he is telling me, get yourself down there, Heather. You need to pray. And then he said, all right, for those of you left in your seats, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Those of you left in your seats, turn to the person next to you and pray for them. I was like, oh my gosh. I turned to my best friend, heard it. She and I share a name. We're both named Heather Lynn, so she's one and I'm two. I turned to her, she grabs my hands, and I broke. I could hardly stand up. I was crying. It was literally, it was the Holy Spirit just all on me. It was insane. And then I was embarrassed because people saw me fall apart like that. And don't I have my life together? But she did not know what to pray for me, except I pray that she would feel the love of God. And we got done with that, and Pastor's ready to do his thing, whatever. I don't know, but I knelt down, turned around, and put my head on the chair and just cried my eyes out and left a big wet stain there, like whatever. But I just continued to cry, and I just remember, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I said in my rebellious attitude, I was like, God, I'll give you one more try. Yeah, okay. He's a big God, right? And he's filled with love and mercy. So he can handle all of that. But I was obviously very hurt, very broken. But that's where my road back to God began. That was the beginnings of my moving forward story, was right there. Remember, we're still married. We're still together. Things are still horrible, getting worse by the day. And what I noticed was that the closer that I drew to God, the worse it got at home. Because the evil does not like, the dark doesn't like the light. The evil doesn't like the good. And I never came home and said, oh man, I had this moment with God. I never had any of that. Or I never said anything to him about it. I was like, yeah, it was good. That's all I said. But I think that his spirit senses it. His spirit can sense my spirit is different. And what does Satan want to do? He wants to drive that wedge between the two of you and cause you to divorce, because God created marriage. He loves marriage. Satan wants to destroy marriages. And so I know that's what was happening there, but there was even more, like, over time, just even more lies and deception and control. And boy, was he controlling. I went to church. I got home. He locked me out of the house. I went to my dad's birthday party. He locked me out of the house, calling the police. This was just, yeah, it was insane. Because I never opened up about any of these things. Like I said, I was a mess. And I was mentally I was a wreck. I really was. But I did finally open up to my best friend, the one that prayed for me that night. She and I were very close. We'd go for walks together. We sang together. We did everything together. She's incredible, an incredible friend. But because I just didn't know what to believe anymore about anything. I didn't know right from wrong at this point. I did finally open up to her. And so if you can find someone that you can open up to, that can be that iron sharpens iron for you, that's what you need. That's what you need. You cannot hold that in. Another thing that I did in moving forward was I began to journal. And the first thing that I did was I listened to God. I told him all of my hurts. Because he's a big God. He can handle it. I'm not going to read how many pages of this, 2 pages, but just a few things. I said, God, I'm listing my hurts to you, my broken heart, my broken marriage, my low self-esteem, my anger towards him for leaving, not wanting to work things out, and for not loving me, for feeling inadequate. I'm hurt because I never finished school. I'm hurt because I feel like a failure in my marriage and light. The financial instability was like it was insane. But I listed all of that out to God. And for me, writing that down is good to get it out of your head onto paper. And then there's the problem. That's the hurts. They're on the paper. They're no longer just in here eating you up. And something like that, like just journaling that out really helped me. And I've never been a journaler, but this was really good for me to do that. I ended up journaling for several years. When I knew that I was coming to do this, I sat there and I read through it several times. And then I had Brian sit down and I read the whole thing. Like he knows my whole story. He knows everything, but he was just, oh my gosh. Because I journaled about my hurts and why I was angry at God and what was scary about this and what were my fears. Put it all down on paper. There's something so therapeutic about that and so healing. But I told him all of my questions and doubts. He already knows it anyway. It's all in our head. Like, he knows us. He made us. But he wants us to tell him, oh, your kid wants that new toy. But maybe you want him to come and ask you. Maybe you want him to come and tell you. That's our God. He's our dad, right? You may not get the answers to all of your questions. Job didn't get the answers. When Job questioned God, why is this happening to me? Who are you to ask me? And I was like, well, if Job can ask, I can ask. But I also get from that he doesn't have to answer that. And so I did. I did a lot. And it was really just a matter of trusting that God was still there and he was listening to me and he still loved me is what it was. And that I knew that I could trust him with my questions and all of my fears and my doubts and everything that was happening. I think pouring your heart out to God, he knows it anyway. He knows. And we just need to do it and don't just assume that he knows. So one of the other things that I did was I started in Psalm. I was like, where do I even begin? Praise in the church. Where do I start reading my Bible? I messed up in my head emotionally, mentally. So I started with the Psalms, chapter 1, and I would read it. Chapter 2, and I would read it. And what I noticed about David is he pours his heart out to God. Why are you doing this? Where are you, God? I can't see you. I can't feel you. What is happening? And in the end, I still trust you. You are my God. You are my rock. And I'm like, wow. So Psalm 22 this one was huge for me. I would read it every day. So what I did is I Heatherized it. Back before I even knew I'd called it that. And what I wrote in here is it's been so encouraging to me these last few days. I've read it over and over again. Verses 1 through 5 is David crying out to God and not feeling like God is there. I have felt like that for so long. And then David acknowledges that God is who he is. He is the Holy One, and he has delivered people from their problems. And verse 6 through 8 is David saying that he is nothing but a worm. And boy, did I feel like I was nothing but a worm. Like, self-esteem? What is that? Yeah. Verse 9 through 11, David says that he has always trusted in God. He wants God to be near because no one will help him. Yep. And verse 12 through 21, David tells of how his life is torn apart by the trials that he goes through and how he is dried up inside. Yeah, I connected with this so hardcore. He begs for God's mercy and deliverance. I feel dry and cracked inside. There is nothing left, no hope, no faith, no tomorrow. But then David begs for God to come quickly and rescue him. And that is what I want so badly, for God to rescue me from everything, hurt, depression, anger, but I don't feel like it will be quick. It wasn't quick, y'all. And then verse 22 through 31, David is praising God no matter what has happened. He says that he will go to God and seek him and bow before him. He says future generations will bow down to God. And that is what I hope that I can do, that eventually I will have the faith of David, no matter what comes my way, that I will continue to trust in God and believe in him. I'm not there yet, but I want to be. Yeah. And I would just read it and add to this and just learning how to trust God again, no matter what I was feeling or thinking and what was happening. And then during this time, as part of all of my moving forward with talking to a friend and with journaling, I went to Heather and I said, I'm reading the Psalms, but I don't know. I feel like I need more. Like, maybe it'll just help things go faster if I could just get closer to God and feel that connection faster. I don't know. She said, let's go to the bookstore and let's get a book together. So, oops, I jumped ahead. We did that too. I'm going to get there. No, I'm going to tell you what we did. So in church, they offered a class called Cleansing Streams. Y'all know it? Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. Okay, this is so long ago. I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to hear of it, but that's so amazing. Well, then you're going to know what I'm talking about with this. Okay, so I was like, you know what? I think that's a good next step for me. I need to go. Yeah, she's like, yes, you do, girl. Yeah, and so I signed up. I was a little excited. I was a little looking forward to it, but I was like on the fence. I don't know. But I went out of obedience because I really felt like God was telling me to go. And so I did. And I found the classes and the homework extremely frustrating. I was miserable. But I went each week and I did the homework because what I said was, I felt like the Lord was telling me to go. That's obedience. Obedience is key. And so I went and I did it all. And then there's a retreat at the end. Did y'all have a retreat at the end? Oh my gosh. Okay, so everybody, you have to go. It's the most incredible thing. You're going to get so much freedom and healing and power. And I'm like, yes, that's what I need. Remember, during all this time, I'm still married to him. He's still there. So that's not moved forward. It's still just doing its thing, just stewing and gross. But I'm looking for. It was awful. It was awful. But I was so hungry I did this and I went to the retreat. But then I did write in. Where did I write that? Where's my cleansing strength story in here? Oh my gosh. I noticed like they would have someone would speak on anger. And then you'd come forward and they would pray for you about your anger. And I would go up and I would fall apart crying my eyes out and walk back to my seat embarrassed because everybody saw me falling apart. I don't have it all together and feeling like I'm still angry. And then they pray about forgiveness and they pray like all of these different negative emotions and things that we're experiencing. I went up every time because I think that's what you're supposed to do. And I'm the girl that's going to do what she's supposed to do. But the retreat was not a good experience. Oh, and I even tried to back out of going. I told Glenn and Valerie they were leading our class at the church. I was like, I'm not going to go. I can't afford it. And they're like, we're going to pay for you. You're going to go. And I'm like, now it's my excuse. I thought that's an easy way to get out of doing something if you don't have the money. And I didn't have the money, but that didn't work. I didn't understand why I wasn't feeling that promised freedom and peace. And when I left that retreat, I don't know, I was still so broken and I still had nothing from God, I felt. And so I remember talking to Valerie and I said, why do I feel so stuck? And she said some very wise words to me. She said, just because you don't feel it today doesn't mean that God isn't doing it and to keep praying. How long? How long? I was like, okay, it's probably what she's supposed to say. There was a lot of bitterness in me. There was still a lot, even though I'm moving closer to God and trying to move forward in my relationship with him, there's still so much that he's dealing. I was an onion filled with all those layers. Those were some very wise words. And that next Sunday, my friend Heather saw me and she's like, how was it? And I'm like, And then we had to go get up on stage because I was on worship team that morning. And the music started and I broke down again. That's when it happened. That's when I got that freedom. That's when everything made sense to me. Even like when washing your face, like at the retreat, I had to put water on her face for something. Everything made sense. And I couldn't sing a word. I was just up on stage crying my eyes out like like a blubbering baby. But I knew that he was healing me. I knew it. And it was, oh. And I remember afterwards, like the next Wednesday, I went to the class again, and I stuck around afterwards to chat with Pastor Glenn and Valerie. And I told them about that, what happened on Sunday morning, and they told me, you look so miserable every week. And I'm like, I put a smile on my face. No, nope. They were like, we prayed for you the whole time. Now, mind you, they don't know what's going on. I think they can sense that something's not right in the marriage, and it's like something's going on, but you know what I mean? Because sometimes you can just tell things. But they didn't know anything, no details, and they just prayed for me the entire time. And what he said to me is, so many times, like he said, your key to your freedom is obedience. And this proves it to you. You felt like God was telling you to sign up for cleansing streams and to go to the retreat, even though you tried to get out of it. You did it, and your obedience like brought about this freedom that you're starting to feel. And I'm like, that was amazing. Then I walked away really angry because I ended up sharing more with them than I intended. Because I have to keep my problems private, right? But it was okay. They knew they were praying for me anyway. So I continued to grow and lean on God, and everything continued to get worse. I struggled the most with forgiveness and healing. And now forgiveness and healing has become my soapbox. And we have an entire webinar on that. It's called the Forgiveness Experience, and it's because of what we've experienced and what God can do with that. But I struggled with that because I'm still living in the same situation, and you want me to forgive him for the things that he's done today and yesterday and will do tomorrow. What are you like? So then January rolls around, and we have week of prayer at church, right? Every January we had that. And so I knew that God wanted me to go. I wasn't feeling it because I was not having all good days. I really wasn't. Like, it was just off and on. I don't know. But I knew that I needed to go. And so I did. That's obedience again. And during that time, like, God used the week of prayer to peel away some of these layers and to help me grow. And where did my note go? And that's when I remember getting there early one time, and I said, I want a new scripture besides Psalm 22. And so I just continued to go through the Psalms, and I came to Psalm 27. And Psalm 27, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's a part in there that says, seek his face. So actually I did write down Psalm 27, 8 and 9. My heart says to you, seek his face. Your face, O Lord, I will seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my helper. Do not reject me or forsake me, God, my Savior. Seek his face. And that's what I heard during the prayer time that night. Seek his face. And so I sat there and just, in my mind, I just imagined that I'm staring into the face of God. And God said to me, and I'm not the kind of person that's, I hear God talking to me every single day. Like, I want him to write on the wall. I want to read it. He doesn't do that either. But I'm not that person that hears God speak to me all the time. When I know it. And I've had some times when I know he is talking to me. And he said, as I'm just imagining looking into his face, he said, look to me no matter what. And in my mind's eye, I went, why? What's going to happen? And his hands on my face. You look to me. You look to me. Don't look to the right or to the left. And don't worry about whatever will happen. Just look to me. And I'm like bawling like a baby. I think I quit wearing makeup at that time. It was so powerful for me to hear that from God. To feel that nudge of the Holy Spirit, you should go do this and you should go do that. But to feel like you hear his audible voice telling you, don't look to the left or right. Don't worry about whatever happens. You look to me because I'm going to take care of you. And that promise is something that I've carried with me. This is 2001, 2002. Everything else that I've experienced since then. And that's been a lot of stuff. But to have that promise, he didn't mean it just for that one moment. He meant it for all time's sake. And so, that was just, I don't know, that was just such an incredible moment that I felt with God. And, the very last night of Week of Prayer, that was Thursday night. This is Friday night. Was all about forgiveness. And Heather used to tell me, you're going to have to forgive him. And I said, I know what the Bible says. I'm not doing that today. And I still had a lot of attitude, a lot of inside of me. So one layer at a time is, I think, how God does it. That was not an easy thought for me to even think about how to forgive him. And I said, I know that I need to. I don't even know how. I don't know. But they preached on forgiveness and praying for that person. I didn't pray for him. Obviously, clearly, no. It was not an easy battle for me. But that night, like they said, just speak the name of the person. They wanted us to come up to the microphone and say the name of the person. Now, we're at church. where he sometimes attends when he's in town. Very few people know my story. I am not going to the microphone to say his name. But I did it right there in my seat, and I really felt like God heard me, and he understood. He knows me. And I did the thing that I was asked to do, just not in front of, it wasn't public. That's okay. It doesn't need to be. But I kept telling God that I was so scared to do this. I was scared. And it's that whole thing, people confuse forgiveness and reconciliation, and they're not the same thing. Yeah, they're not the same thing. But God knew how scared I was to even think about this, to forgive him. But I began to speak that I would forgive him. I also had to forgive myself, turning my back on God, for being so angry, for just all of my part in this, I had to forgive myself. And that was huge too. And I'd never even thought about you've got to forgive yourself sometimes, but we're our worst enemies and we beat each other up. Why did I do that? That was so stupid. I'm so mad at myself for that. And then you get stuck. You can't move forward because you're still stuck there. You're still angry at yourself. There's still something there. And God, no, I've forgiven that too. Forgive yourself. That's just as important as forgiving another person to move on. And so I spoke it that night. I spoke it, but it wasn't here yet. And that's something else that I have learned is that you got to do it out of obedience. Do what the Lord is telling you to do. Say it out of obedience. I forgive you. I forgive you. And eventually it does go from here to your heart to where you have true forgiveness for that person. And something that I learned along the way was that when you can pray for that person, when they come to your mind and you can pray for them, you've forgiven them. Which is crazy because I thought that I had forgiven him, and it was at another weekend retreat at my church where I heard that. And by this time, I'm already married to Brian, and I'm like, oh, I'm not praying for him. I can't pray for him. God, please save him, and that's about all I got. I don't have anything else. But do I want good things for him? Yeah, it was. So there was it's like that next level when you can really pray, and it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt anymore. Yeah. So the next morning, I had to forgive him all over again. Because what we do, we take it all back, right? We take it all back, and I had to forgive him all over again. I knew that it was a choice for me to do that. I was learning that this is more for me. It's not for him. I couldn't even go to him and say, I forgive you. He's not even going to, look, if I were to do that, I think his response would be, why would you need to forgive me? I didn't do anything wrong. So there's never going to be any of that, even kind of a conversation. But I did make that choice daily. Every time a bad memory would return, and I had a lot of them, it would make me so hot inside. I immediately had to say, no, I forgive him. I'm making this choice. And like I said, it's that over and over thing that we have to do sometimes. And little by little, that weight was lifted. And then I started noticing that I would have a thought about something, and it didn't hurt anymore. I'm like, that didn't hurt to talk about it. It doesn't hurt me to talk about it anymore. What Heather told me, she said, someday you're going to share your testimony. I was like, oh, no, I'm not. And here I am. And now, I share this stuff on our podcast, things that we've written, whatever. You can't hide the bad stuff. You can't hide the bad stuff under a blanket of where nobody sees it, because how is anyone else going to learn from what happened? You have to share that stuff and be willing. Yeah, it's hard because it's embarrassing. My thought is, if things went wrong, it's a bad reflection on me. That's how I felt. And so she was right. She said, someday you will. She was right. But I feel like that obedience shined again that night, that Friday night, because I was in the lobby. I was telling my friend Heather all about it, just how I did what I was supposed to do. And I started feeling some freedom that night. And two other friends, they were some younger girls that we were friends with in the church. They come up and they're seeing this interaction. And they come up and they're just standing there like this. They're like 21 years old. They're like, and I was like, what, Megan? She goes, just keep talking. I just want to watch you talk your face. I just want to keep looking at your face. That's God. That's his presence. Because I had changed. It was like, things were changing. It was showing on my face because Glenn and Valerie could see it, even though I put a smile on my face. They could see how miserable I was. This was different. Of course, I had to go tell Glenn and Valerie too. I was telling anybody who listened how I was just starting to feel this freedom and things, just more things were starting to click. And of course, things kept getting worse. I discovered some proof of financial debt. And he would leave work early, come home and get the mail, leave the junk mail in the box, and you go back to work. I didn't know anything. Like, he was a very crafty person. And so I'd go home and I'd get the mail, it's just junk mail. So I didn't know about these things, but I did happen to find out about some financial debt where he forged my name on something. You know those checks that come in the mail, sign here, and we'll give you this loan, $3,000 or whatever? Yeah. And so I stopped, and of course he denied it, that he even knew what that was, whatever, even though I had proof. Yeah. And so I stopped giving him a paycheck because I'm like, I need to keep this. I don't know what he's doing with it. And at this point, pretty sure alcoholism, drug addiction, there's a pornography addiction, there's like the phone sex thing, like that. There's, yeah, I don't know, questioning all the weekends, like how many affairs has he had at this point? But it's all suspect because this is the first time I've gotten some proof of anything. But I stopped giving him a paycheck, which of course made him very angry. And I would sleep with my money under the mattress. You know, like you hear people long ago, the money's hidden under the mattress. That was me. And then I would go to school the next day, and I would carry $1,000 in my purse, praying that nobody would steal my money out of my purse. Like that, but that's what I had to do. And my parents, at this point, I finally started sharing some things with my parents at this point. And my mom was like, we need to go get your bank account. So we did. I don't trust your money in there. But because what had happened was I forgot to put my money under the mattress one night, and he went through my purse and stole several $1,000s. Yeah. So my mom's like, all right, Heather, you need a bank account. That is not working. And so we did. And when we went there, my mom was like, do not send anything to her house. That's her living address. This is her mailing address. Send it to my mom and dad's house. Except the welcome packet came to my house. Yeah. So when I got home that day, that was when things went from really bad to, yeah, it became abusive. Yeah. Yeah. He only hurt me once. I didn't seem to think it, everything else I seemed to be just like a stork with my head in the sand. But with this, it's against the law. You're not going to put your hands on me. So I did finally stand up and do something about it. But that night I was sitting on the couch. I was reading over some papers, and he's yelling at me, and I'm doing my best to ignore him. And because he didn't have my attention, he grabbed my glasses off my face. He tried to break them. He threw them across the room. He grabbed the papers out of my hand and crumpled them up and threw them across the room. And then he grabbed my foot, and he tried to pull me off the couch. And he's twisting my foot at the same time. And during that whole interaction, when he had a hold of me, I just looked at him and I said, get your hands off of me. And that's how I said it. I said it twice. And he finally let go of my foot, and he went and passed out in the bedroom. How in the world was I able to stay calm during that? That is the peace of God that passes all understanding. That's what that is. I felt it that night. Like, I was terrified, but I knew that he had passed out. Camera was sitting on top of the refrigerator, and I was like, I'm taking a picture of this. I need proof. I never got a bruise. It didn't even turn red. I'm like, because I thought nobody's going to listen to me. And I couldn't even leave that night because he would park his truck behind my car, so I could not get out of the carport. Oh, he was very clever. Very clever, yes. And so the next morning I went to school and went to my boss and said, I cannot be here today. I can't tell you what's going on, but I cannot be here today. It's an emergency. So they took care of it, and I called my worship leader, Pastor Jeff, and I said, I need to come talk to you. Things just got really bad. And so he and his wife met me up at the church, and then his wife took me to the police station to file a restraining order. So he was given that restraining order that day, and of course he felt like he needed to be the one to stay in the house because I had family in town and he didn't need to leave, and they said, no, you have to be the one to leave. So thank God for that. Pack your bag, and we're going to escort you out. But with him gone, I started getting the mail. Every bill was at least 3 months overdue. I had been riding around for 3 months with no car insurance. The house was getting ready to go into foreclosure. I didn't know about any of this stuff. And I was, yeah. It was insane. Like, we had no saves. We had nothing. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Yeah. And through all of that, too, I also started getting letters from his woman in Texas. Yeah. Letters from his mother. Letters, just, yeah, telling me okay. I think gaslighting is a term these days, right? It wasn't a term that gaslit. She was, I was, she's accusing me of all kinds of things. Yeah. And of course, the woman in Texas, all the things that she was saying and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, I'm finding out more than I ever realized, along with everything else. And he said, we'll go to counseling. He told the judge at the day of the first hearing, so we had a lot, the first hearing, we'll go to counseling. And I said, okay, because, like I said, I was raised in the church. You don't get divorced. Divorce is a sin. But what I know is God forgives all sin. But I was torn. I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I stick it out and pray for him to come back? Or do I go ahead and file for divorce? And my friends, my family said, Heather, you've got to be the one to get on your face before God and pray and ask him that. We cannot tell you what to do. But God did tell me one thing one time. He said, Heather, sometimes the Lord is right there with you while you're fighting the battle, and sometimes he just takes you out of the battle. And I was like, okay, well, what should I do? Yeah, I think those were wise words. But I did. I needed to know that I was doing everything that God was, I feel like, telling me to do, to lean into him, to pray to him when I didn't know what to do, when I was facing those fears of being alone. Oh my gosh. But I did. He didn't come to any of the counseling sessions. We had two. By the second one, he was already back in Texas. And I was like, I think that's my answer right there. And so I was at the courthouse on jury duty, and I just went ahead and filed for divorce on the lunch break. Yeah. My parents were like, Heather, when are you going to do it? And I was like, and I got literally $20 out of my paycheck that's left after the bills are paid. I literally only have $20. So it's going to take a long time for me to save up the money. And my mom will pay for it. Totally not in my notes, but I was down there and I went to pay for it. And the price had gone up because my mom's like, how much is it? It had increased by, I don't know, something ridiculous, like less than $2. I'm digging through my purse and I'm like digging for change and everything. I'm standing at the counter. This is so embarrassing. And like, I was like $1.50 short, whatever it was, whatever the price had increased to. It was like $1.50 short. That was my lunch money I had to use too. So I didn't even have lunch that day. What? And she goes, you're going to have to go down to the next person at that window and they will need to send you a bill for the change that you owe on this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I go down to that window and I'm like, hold it together. God help me hold it together. Don't break down crying. And so when I tell the lady what was going on, she said, what? She immediately picks her purse up and she's like, how much do you need? And she go down there and tell her it's covered. Then take this to her. So I was able to go ahead and file on my lunch break at jury duty through the kindness of some sweet lady. But I did make that hard decision, which, yeah. Hang on. And all through this, we're having multiple court dates, and just whether he was there or not, I don't know how many he came to, but I had to show up every time because he was in Texas by this time. But I would go, and my family would be there, and my friends would be there to support me through all of this, and then I would have to finish that and go to work and teach for the day. It was just, a very messy time. But through it all, he started sending me letters. There's a restraining order. You have no contact. You cannot send me a letter. You're not allowed. When you're filing for a divorce, you have to notify them. Except he's in Texas. Texas and Florida have different laws. Who delivers, how it can be delivered. So then I'm calling a judge. I'm telling his assistant, I need a letter from him saying that the constable in Texas can just tape it to the door. Because in Florida, you have to hand it to the person. Like, I don't know what to do. Anyway, all of that actually came through. It worked out. It took months and months to do all of that. And the whole time I'm trying to draw closer to God. I'm trying to trust him. I'm trying to see that there is going to be an end in sight, because I'm feeling like the biggest loser in the world. Like, just this whole messy situation. Gross. It was awful. But he started sending me letters that he was going to come back. He told his mom he's going to come back and make me pay and make my parents pay. It was our fault that his life is messed up. So when his mom finally realized the son's not the apple of her eye, she wised up to some things, and she started sending me letters telling me he's coming this weekend, and he's borrowing his friend's car, and this is the license plate. He never did come. But every time a letter came, me and my bestie drove down to the police station and filed that report. I need it put in my file. I need it put in my file. I'm creating a paper trail, because if something happens to me, they need to know. So then I get a phone call from the state's attorney's office. What have I done? Right? My file came across their desk because I had filed one too many times. They're like, we need to send this up. Send it up the ladder. I'm like, wow. One of the ladies that worked in that office, I was her daughter's teacher the previous year. That is not God. She told her husband, you need to do some drive-bys a couple times a week. Make sure she's okay. Make sure her house isn't burned out, whatever. Like, I know. So I met with them, and they said because there was no physical contact for breaking the restraining order, and it was all via mail at this point, they were going to sit on it before they made a decision to do anything to press charges against him. But knowing that I had that level was really good. All of this caused just an enormous amount of stress and just heartache, sleepless nights, ulcers, headaches, nightmares, all of it. Even though I am doing what I can to draw close to God, I'm still suffering from all of these things. That does not go away. This was literally 2 steps forward, 1.5 back the whole time. It was not easy, but one thing that I did is I made a decision when I realized, okay, yes, I'm getting divorced. I made a decision that I did not want to be a bitter, divorced woman. I was friends with some of them. They've not moved past their own junk. They've not forgiven. And you hear it in their words and you see it in their faces. And I did not want to be that way. I like being a happy, fun person. And I was in misery, right? But I made that conscious effort to not be what I didn't want to be. Yeah, you'll get it. But that decision, I really feel like it helped guide me and move me forward in knowing that there was hard stuff that I had to do and I needed to do it. I knew that I still had so many questions that I would never get answers to. I'm still called to forgive. My best friend, I began to tell her a lot more that was happening. And she was that listening ear. She let me cry on her shoulder. She didn't judge. Because I was still feeling like I was messing with it. She didn't judge me for even the bad thoughts that I had. Can we just run him over with a car or something? Who wrote that song, I Pray Your Brakes? Who wrote that country song? It was, I pray for you, I pray your brakes. Yes. Yes. But yeah, she didn't care what I said to her. She just listened, and that was the important thing. She just listened, and she would encourage me and pray with me. She would give me scriptures to meditate on. She wrote all these down for me. This is what you need. You need to go read these. And I did. I showed it to my sister when she came to visit me, and she added a few on there as well. Yeah. But she was just with me all the way. And she's the one, she said, let's go find a book together that we can read separately and come together and talk about it. It was by Kay Andrews called Lord Heal My Hurts. I'm like, I saw the cover and I'm like, that's the one. Yep, I need to be healed. And so we did. We started reading that together. And the more that I opened up to her about everything that I was thinking and feeling, the more straightened out my head got, I think. And yeah, so I talked about the nightmares and sleepless night. I had one bad dream I was running through a parking garage and he was chasing me and he shot me in the back. And then I went to, next thing I know, I'm in a hotel room bleeding out in a bathtub filled with water. Like, it just bad dreams, really bad dreams. And just jumping at every noise you would hear, thing, like, just, I don't know. It was still, like, it was a very scary night, but knowing that he could potentially come back, that he's threatening, doing all those things. Pastor Jeff, the worship pastor, and his wife Mia, and my friend Heather, and a few other friends, they were like, "Have you prayed through your house? Have you done a prayer walk through your house?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Great, we're coming tonight after church, whatever." They came over, get the olive oil out, and start walking through the house and praying and just anointing the door frames with oil. Walk around the outside. They were like, "You need protection. These evil spirits are like in your house. We got to get them out." And so they did that, and I slept like a baby that night. I really did. That made the biggest difference. And they made a few other suggestions. Sleep with worship music on. The soft, calming. I did. I didn't have a radio in my bedroom or anything, so I would put my little Walkman thing, a little CD Walkman, and listen to that on repeat all night long. They even said, before you go to work, turn on the Christian radio and just let it play all day. And when I would walk through the doors of my house, it was like, it was a refreshing peace. And I know that was God. So again, doing something like that really helps you move forward because you're drawing closer to God. You're getting that poured into you and you don't realize it. And just praying out the evil spirits, right? And praying for the angels to be all around you, just encamping around you. But God was with me all the way. Even when I was being rebellious and bratty, he was with me. We went to mediation. He was on the phone because we're not divorced yet. He's still fighting for what he wants. So I'm on the phone with them, and he wanted all the electronics. He wanted the microwave, wanted all these things that he said were his. That's when he can have them. I don't know what I'm going to do when I don't know when he's going to come back here and get the TV and the stereo. That didn't even work. Fine, come get your stuff. Like, whatever. Bring your police officer, somebody with you, whatever. I agreed to all of that. And within 2 days of that being signed and agreed to, all of that stuff was replaced with newer and better things, my friends and family. That is God with me all the way. All the way. Yep. And his stuff, what happened to it? It went out to the curb. Like, I got better stuff. Out to the curb it goes. But that was fine because he never came to get it. He actually never signed the mediation paperwork, the agreements that we had. He never signed it and sent it back within that time period. And so some other things that I did is I found verses that I would meditate on. I had the ones that my friend gave me. And then I would find some that I needed. I need to be restored, God. So you go into the back of the Bible and you look for restoration and you get all the verses. That's what I was doing. That's Google before there was Google. So 1 Peter 5:10, and the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, or a long time, will himself restore you and make you strong and firm and steadfast. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I like that one, so I wrote it down. Even colored pen, made them pretty, because all these things, I just keep pulling them out and reading them. And then I was like, somehow I need to go forward, moving forward, right? I don't even know how to do this. So Philippians chapter 2, for the one thing I know, forgetting what is behind and straining forward toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. That one. And then I found some for wisdom and strength. And then I came across this one, which has become a hallmark verse for my life and for me and Brian, really. Isaiah 43:18 and 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? No, because we're stuck in our heads. No, we don't perceive it, God. Yeah, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. And that's a promise from God. He's making a way in the desert, but we don't see it because we're still trying to get out of it. He's still changing us and drawing us closer to him and peeling away all the junk. So we're not really seeing it yet, but we have to trust that he's doing it, right? We want to see the whole picture, but we don't. We see this much. And God sees it all. If we can just hold on to him, He knows what the good is going to be. He knows it. He knew that I was going to be up here talking to y'all. And I mean, that verse, mm, that verse to me, it just says so much about what God wants to do and what he can do and what our part is, really, to look to him. Like, do you not, I'm doing a new thing. So to see that new thing, you have to look at him. You have to. I should have set this so that it would never turn off. There it is. So finding those verses that I could cling to. Another thing that I did, I wrote, in the beginning I said I wrote all of my list of hurts, right? I wrote a list of things that I know about God. Sometimes we need to be reminded of the facets of God, of his personality, of who he is. I got 2 pages of that. I gotta read the whole thing, but God is in control. He controls the winds and the waves, and I can trust him. And these are all scriptures. I don't know what scriptures they were, but I paraphrased it on here is what I did. Heatherisms. He's protected and carried me. What God has for me is better than what I hold on to. So when I'm holding on to that unforgiveness and the hurt and the anger and the pain, girl, just give it to me because I have something so much better. He's in that back room. I know he'll never leave me, and I will overcome. He's my shelter. Shelter is something that covers you, protects you from all the elements. And he's my rock. That's the foundation when everything's crashing. Like, I didn't feel like it, but I know I needed to say it. That's obedience in your spirit, too. And now when I think about, I like to call it my former life. When I think about my former life, I can pray for him to find Jesus because that is what he needs. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know where he is. I know he's in Texas, but I don't know anything, and I don't need to know. But that is when you reach that true whole forgiveness. And if you're holding on to something in your heart, whether it's a spouse that you have now or a former spouse or a friend or family member, it doesn't matter. Like, God dealt with me on this last year with my boss, my former boss. Like, I didn't want to let go. I was so angry. I was so righteous. And God is like, girl, you better get it right. Don't let this linger. You have to get to that point knowing that he's going to take care of all of it. Now, on a good note, before I met Brian, I thought all men are bad. They're all evil. There were some that if I stood next to them, they were friends of mine, and they're talking to their spouses. Get away from me. My spirit sensed the controlling nature. So to me, it was like when he started to pursue me, nope. But the aftermath of adultery and control, the control he had on me, and all of the deception, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so yeah, when Brian came along, I didn't trust him. I had a lot of fear that if Brian knew what happened to me, he would do the same thing. He'd be like, oh, I know what I can get away with. And so we were actually friends for a very long time before I would pursue anything or allow him to, whatever. We were friends for a long time. And why did I stay friends with him if I was so fearful of men? Honestly, it was his spirit, his personality. There was something there. It's like another time, another place. But I wouldn't let myself go there. But I wanted to be his friend because I'd never encountered a man like that. I think his head is just ballooning up if he's hearing. So there was, with all of that, all of those fears, I began to project my hurts and my fears onto him. Even after we were married, I would project things onto him. He and my sister would call it that they would say that I had stepped out on a ledge, or that I was under like such an anxiety attack. Almost, it was like I was trying to lift up a piano. Put the piano down. Like they would literally say that to me. Put the piano down. It's gonna be okay. Stop jumping to the nth degree when it's not even happened. And Brian is a very patient man, and he's a great communicator. Like words of affirmation, his love language. Communication, oh my gosh. So he's so good at it, and he was so patient with me. All the conversations that we had when we were dating and even married, he could sense when I'd had a bad dream about my ex-husband. He could sense it. He'd be like, what's going on? He would just know something's not right. So it was like God kept him from personalizing what was going on with me because I was projecting onto him. And I just think that's the power of the Holy Spirit right there. And so I learned how to communicate from Brian, from opening up to him, and then being asked to talk about this stuff in a women's class at my former church in Florida. Yeah, but that's so. My friend was right when she said you're going to share it. I did. So all of those things really helped me heal and move forward. The talking about it, the finding that friend, the trusting God, 100%. But yeah, and learning how to communicate. So I continued to work through that total forgiveness and healing with God. And it's just like as soon as I felt like we're good, I'm good, something might creep in. Like I said earlier, when I think about it now, I don't feel anything. I feel like I'm talking about a Lifetime original movie. It's crazy to feel like that. Yeah. But he's healed me just like he promised. And that's honestly, this is what Love How Deep and our desire for marriage is birthed out of that pain. He's divorced as well. He didn't go through all this stuff, but he did go through some of the same types of situations. But it's because we don't want to see people go through this. And so if you do find yourself in some situation where you're tore up over something, take it one day at a time and be patient with yourself. Be very patient with yourself, because this 3 years, it even lasted a little bit after that. I just probably ran out of patience. I don't know, maybe I never got another one. And finding that friend, that true godly friend that's going to let you say whatever you need to say without judgment, and then pray for you. You have to have that. And praying, like prayer is the biggest thing. And you've got to plant God's word in your heart with all of these things that you do. Oh, one of the other things I did is I would write down worship songs, the words to worship songs. And I would read, because so many of those songs, they're based on scripture. So the artist has just heatherized it, right, for themselves. But this one still, the song still, hide me now under your wings, cover me with your mighty hands. When the oceans rise and thunder roars, and boy, did it ever, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood, and I will be still and know you are God. Like, so finding things like that to write down and just read over and over, knowing that somebody wrote these as they were listening to the Lord. And just that constant prayer, finding the scriptures, and just lastly, just forgiving the person and forgiving yourself. Oh, you've made it when you can, and it doesn't hurt anymore. You can pray for them. Yeah. My prayer is that something that I said just blesses somebody here and helps you. Thank you. Helps you. Somebody move forward. I look at all the things that I've been through with the attitude of, if it helps any person, it's worth it. And the bad stuff in my life didn't end then, but I'm going to end that there.